guides. And the whole point of that is to help people who haven't felt cherished, who haven't felt seen and heard and safe, particularly with their mothers. So they may have had a mother who was overly critical, or a mother that they had to parent themselves, or a mother who was particularly cold. So they weren't really taught how to really love and honor and cherish themselves. And they do that through helping them to understand and work through that stuff, but also around connection with spirit. Because when you connect with your spirit guides, they bring that stuff in spades. Like they just love you. They see everything about you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the quirky, the funny. They don't care. They see it all and they love all of it. And they help. And it's kind of through that connection that you start being able to do that for yourself. And then through that, you kind of find this power to start saying no to what you don't want and saying yes to what you do want without feeling guilty. And that's my job. That's what I love to help people with.
Right from the beginning, why did you get involved in this type of work?
So my background, professionally, I was a probation officer for many years, and so I coached people around life choices and got a lot of training in that area. I worked in substance misuse and have a background of understanding addiction, which when you've got a trauma bond with somebody, so I do work with a lot of people whose mothers are narcissistic, as well as other people in their lives. There's a trauma bond can form, and that's very much like addiction. So that's proved very helpful. But then I also moved on to supporting survivors of domestic abuse, in their emotional recovery. But while doing that work, really started to realize that actually my relationship with my mother was deeply harmful, emotionally abusive. I became her carer when I was 12, for physical issues, but also mental health issues. And I was kind of her confidant. I ended up, it's called parentification. I ended up very much in the parent role, taking care of her physically, but it was the emotional toll that really became a problem, because as I got older and tried to have a bit of a personality of my own, of a life of my own, I think fear really kicked in for her. She got really scared, and that made her then become, she tried to get very controlling, used a lot of guilt trips to try and get me to behave a certain way and make sure that, I think she was scared of me abandoning her, but what she actually did was push me away. But she also, there was a lot of what we call triangulation, so playing me against my brother, playing me against my grandparents, playing me against my father, and caused me to become very isolated from lots of people. Also caused me to really doubt myself and who I was, and if I had opinions that were different to hers, particularly around family issues, that was a complete betrayal. So you really struggle to get a real strong identity. And I also, she was only happy if I was meeting her needs, if I was keeping her happy, if I was serving her. So that's when you then start developing a lot of people pleasing. So I ended up really suffering with anxiety for many years, very, very severely. Had periods of depression as well, but it was mainly anxiety. And it was when I became a mum myself, I then accessed counselling and was learning a lot more about domestic abuse and the different forms that that can take. And I started to realize something was really, really wrong. And as I started to realize it, I tried to put boundaries in place, tried to, bring in a lot of my own training and tried to do those things. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where it became a very clear choice. I can either be happy and healthy and well and be the mother that I wanted to be to my children, because I wasn't at that point. I or I could keep having a relationship with my mum. I couldn't do both. And I'm afraid it got to the point where I had to say to her, I don't want to do this, but I have no choice now. You have to stay away from me and my family. And it was the most painful thing I have ever done, because when I was younger, I saw the sun shone out of her. She was the center of my universe because that's what she wanted. Um, so it was very painful to let go, but at the same time, I have never regretted it for a moment. because my life has just got so much more peaceful. I've started to really discover who I am and start to really love who I am, and I've been able to really grow into the mother I want to be, the friend, the partner. I'm still working on it. I'm not perfect by a long shot. But through doing that, it really helped me to see how I can help other people. But also through that journey, I started, so 20 years ago when I was 19, I joined a spiritual development group. And the spiritual teacher was very aware of all the situation with my mom and was very supportive. She was possibly the first person who said to me something's not right. Um, but it was through that circle that I discovered I had a particular skill of connecting with spirit guides, but it was also that connection that really helped me. It really, I had a deep depression when I had my first breakdown. I was 19, and at that, so it was at that time that I joined the circle. And through finding that I had this whole team of guides around me supporting me, the depression never came back, because depression is about isolation and feeling alone, and that what went. The anxiety stayed with me, but the depression went. But over the years, their support and their guidance, particularly when it came to cutting contact with my mum, it was them saying, "You're doing the right thing, it's okay," and staying with me and supporting me through it. So once I started getting on this healing journey, I trained as a hypnotherapist and started running my own business. It slowly became, at first, I started, really focusing on people who'd been in a toxic relationship because of my history as a probation officer and domestic abuse. But during lockdown, I shut my business down and just started meditating and was getting all these messages through, started sharing them online, was getting this incredible response from them. And it then started becoming clear that I could use hypnotherapy to help people to connect with their own spirit guides rather than me telling them about them. They could do it for themselves. And once I started doing that, the impact it had on these people was incredible. And I remember saying to one client, "How does it feel connecting with your spirit guide?" And she went, "I just feel cherished." And it was like, but that's it. That's it. Is if you feel cherished, you feel like somebody knows you're precious, somebody sees your worth, you're seen, you're heard, you matter. And that's what your spirit guides give you. And that's often what your mother hasn't been able to give you for one reason or another. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So it all kind of came together. It felt like everything I've been through, all I have learned professionally, all I've learned personally, and all the wounds I've dealt with, suddenly it all came together. And it just made sense. This is such a powerful way to recover from those childhood wounds. They can happen in adulthood as well, because your mum's around all your life. The wounds are deep. But this is a really powerful way of helping you to move forward and start finding your voice. It's not always about cutting contact with mum. It's sometimes just finding your voice and being able to hold those boundaries and know that you have a right to do that. Yeah, it's good
When
stuff.
you went through all of that and you had to make those decisions,
Mm.
because that could be tough. Like we live in a
Mm.
society where saying you don't have a good relationship with your parents is like taboo.
Especially with mum. Like you
Mm.
hear about people talking about daddy issues. It's kind of all right to not to say negative things about dad, which is harsh on dads, to be fair. But it's kind of that's all right. But mothers are put on a pedestal in a way that dads aren't. Mothers are supposed. I mean, and there's a lot of pressure on mothers then as well. This whole thing is messed up for men and women, but it's just you can't say anything negative about your mum. It's sacrilegious almost. So that puts this, if you don't have a good relationship with your mother, that silences you. And that's why I do things like this. This is one of the reasons I do my work. It's one of the reasons I do is, podcasts, and I'm writing a book on it. And it's because I want to break that stigma, because we need to be able to talk about this, otherwise the cycle continues. That's how you can end up passing it on to to the next generation. Well, I had to put up with it and do this for my mother, so it's your turn. But it's also when you even if you're not passing that cycle on, because mother wounds are caused from such a young age, your foundations are often based on your mother if she was your main carer. So your idea of what the world is comes through her eyes. So for me, that was my mum. It was just like it was me and her against the world, which is not a healthy perspective. But also my perspective of myself came through her. And that perspective was I was a bad carer because I didn't constantly try and meet her needs. So I was never enough. That then affects your relationships with your friends, your relationships with your children, with your partner, with your colleagues, everything. Because the whole foundation of how you perceive the world and how you perceive yourself has been distorted. And it's it's deep work. It takes a lot to shift it.
It does because I grew up without my mother or my father, and I look at so many of the people that I either have come across through the work that I do or the research that I do who have had a very difficult childhood where they necessarily didn't get the love, time, and attention that
Mm,
they wanted from their parents, so they went outside of the home to seek it, and
mm.
they ran into so many negative situations. Like, what are some of the impacts of a neglectful childhood, let's say from the mother perspective, how
Mm.
is it impacting adults with their relationships, either with people or either romantic relationships?
Well, if you're not taught how to love yourself, then you don't know how to kind of demand that from the other relationships in your life. You don't know how to set that standard. And often it's the way that your mother has tried to show love or has not shown love is kind of what you think is normal and what feels safe. It's what's familiar. So if you're with a mother that's very critical, it may be that you get into lots of relationships with people who make you feel like you're not enough because that's familiar. If somebody praises you, it can feel really uncomfortable if you haven't been taught how to accept that. If you haven't been taught that you're worthy of it, if you have been taught and that you are only worthy of love if you're being useful, then it's likely that you're going to attract somebody who wants to take advantage of that. It affects everything. And a lot of it's about if you will attract the kind of opposite to what you're giving. So if you have low self-worth, you're going to attract somebody who maybe has high self-worth, but okay, the best way to explain this is there's a spiritual teacher called Anita Majani who I absolutely adore. And if you haven't heard of her, go and check her out. She had a near-death experience. She's phenomenal. But she talks about we're all born with 100% ego, and she means self-worth, not being egoic, and 100% conscious awareness, that empathy and connection. But when we're highly sensitive, and particularly if you've been brought up in an environment where you've had to be highly sensitive to keep yourself safe, quite often the self-worth has got knocked down because you're told you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that. Then you get the converse, which is people who their self-conscious, that conscious awareness for some reason has gone down, but you tend to then attract each other like magnets. So they want you to take care of them. They want to take advantage of your empathy and your that strong conscious awareness. And because you have low self-worth, they can. Yeah. So they want that from you, and you go to them because you feel like your worth comes from fixing people. So you go to the people who want fixing. They want a crutch and you're too willing to be a crutch. And you will find it in all areas of life. I did it in my work, I did it in relationships, I did it in friendships, and the only way that you can stop that is to start working on building up your sense of self, building up your sense of worth, really starting to honor and love who you are. And then those people are no longer attracted to you. In fact, they'll not like you one bit. So it's about trying to flip that. But if you haven't, as a child, been made to feel safe, been made to feel seen and heard, and that you matter, it means that you will look for that external validation, that external sources of safety, that external, but you won't know what that looks like in a healthy way. So that's why you can end up in all sorts of, there's so many different ways that can go. Um, but it's always looking for all those things, safety externally, looking for, somebody to make you feel that you matter. But a lot of the times we do it through